We use fire every day.
Right.
Like something as simple as lighting a grill or turning on stove.
Right.
But we rarely stop to think about just how dangerous fire can really be,
Yeah.
especially in industries that use tons of flammable materials every day.
Absolutely.
So today we're doing a deep dive on flame detection, and we're joined by an expert from MSA Safety, a company that's been at the forefront of fire safety for over a century.
That's right.
And, we're not just talking about your basic smoke detectors here.
No, not at all.
They're going to learn all about the complex network of sensors and systems that help prevent those really, really bad situations.
Exactly. And it's incredible, how much we kind of just take fire for granted in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
But, just a tiny spark in the wrong place and the results can be just absolutely devastating.
Absolutely. And what's interesting to me is thinking about all the things that are actually flammable. It's not just gasoline or jet fuel.
Right.
Reading through these MSA safety documents, it was really eye-opening for me just how many things we encounter every day that are flammable.
Yeah.
We're talking about things like paper, wood, even common alcohols, like stuff we have in our homes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's why it's so crucial to understand like the different kinds of fire hazards that exist, right? It's not just, a simple house fire.
Right.
We're talking about things like jet fires, for instance.
Go ahead.
These super intense focused flames, caused by these high pressure releases of flammable liquids or gases.
Wow.
Think of a pipeline rupturing or something like that.
Okay.
And then you've got your pool fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where a huge amount of flammable liquid ignites.
Okay.
Creates this massive spreading inferno.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly difficult to contain.
Yeah, that's really scary stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that MSA talks a lot about, preventing these incidents.
Excellent.
Because the consequences of not having the right detection system in place can be, they can be really, really bad.
Oh, they can be catastrophic, yeah.
So I want to talk about this
this
gas release of entry from the MSA document.
Nice.
And honestly, looking at this thing, it's a little bit scary. It's eye-opening, right? But can you kind of walk us through it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this event tree, it's not just some diagram on a piece of paper.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that, when it comes to flame detection, every second counts.
Right.
We're talking about life or death here.
Right.
And, it lays out all these different potential outcomes of a gas release, right?
Yeah.
And everything comes down to that moment of ignition,
Okay.
Does it ignite immediately?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're looking at, your jet fires or, and this is even scarier, your vapor cloud explosions.
Okay, so hold on. I think we need to unpack this a little bit. Vapor cloud explosions.
Right.
What exactly are we talking about here?
So imagine this, right? You've got this huge release of flammable gas.
Okay.
But it doesn't ignite right away.
Oh.
Instead, it just starts forming this invisible, ever-expanding cloud that can drift, right? It can drift for long distances until it eventually hits that ignition source.
Well.
And if there's no flame detection system in place
Right.
to sound the alarm and activate, the safety measures, then that ignition, that can cause an absolutely massive explosion.
And what does that mean? Like, what are the...
We're talking about just this huge release of energy.
Okay.
Shock waves,
Right.
and the potential for really, really widespread damage.
Wow. So it's like a silent, invisible threat almost.
Exactly. Like something out of a movie almost.
Yeah.
But with very, very real consequences. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing, right? If you've got a well-placed flame detector, even if it just picks up on the tiniest flicker of that ignition, it sets off this whole chain reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Alarms go off. Equipment automatically shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
Suppression systems activate.
Wow.
And you can potentially disperse that cloud before it reaches that critical point.
So it's like that moment in the movie where they have to defuse the bomb with like 1 second left.
Exactly.
Except in this case, the hero is this piece of technology.
Exactly. It's a very, very sophisticated piece of technology. And what makes it even more incredible is that it has to understand the differences between these different types of fires and the very specific dangers that they pose.
So it's not just one size fits all.
No, not at all.
It's got to be very specific to what it's looking for.
Exactly. And that's where it starts to get really interesting when we start thinking about the industries that rely on these systems.
So when we think about these systems, I mean, it's easy to just think about like oil rigs and refineries.
Yeah, those are the obvious ones.
The obvious ones.
But you'd be surprised how many different industries actually rely on these flame detection systems.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, give me some examples.
So take pharmaceuticals, for instance.
Right.
They're often dealing with these super volatile chemicals, flammable solvents.
Yeah.
And, all it takes is one spark, and it could be, a really bad situation.
Wow, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, and then you've got things like textile factories.
Okay.
The dust from all those fibers.
Okay.
Like cotton, for instance.
Oh, wow.
That can be incredibly flammable. I mean, you wouldn't think that a T-shirt could cause an explosion.
Right. No.
But it's a real danger.
That's kind of blowing my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it's amazing how many things around us can actually be fire hazards, right?
Right. And we're talking about industries here that impact all of us every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's even more interesting is that the MSA safety documents, they even mention food and beverage production.
Oh, wow.
Think about, those big industrial bakeries.
Okay.
Flour dust everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Even something as simple as sugar, right, can be flammable under the right conditions.
Really? Wow.
So it just goes to show you how important this stuff really is.
Yeah, it's like it's not just these, heavy industries that we think about.
Right.
So how do they even figure out what type of flame detection system to use? Like, is there a one size fits all solution or?
It's funny you should mention that because there really isn't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Okay.
Each situation is unique, right, and requires, a very specific approach.
So how do they narrow it down then?
So let's take a look at this table from the MSA safety document. It's called Common Flame Hazard Applications, and it really lays out what types of detectors are best suited for particular locations and in situations.
Okay.
So, for instance, right, in oil refineries, you'll often see these fixed detectors in places like process units, pump stations, places where the risk of hydrocarbon fires is really high.
Right. Okay. And so these fixed detectors, what makes them like special? Like, are they just super sensitive to any kind of heat or light?
They are, but they're also incredibly smart.
Okay.
They're designed to tell the difference between, a real flame and other sources of light or heat.
So like sunlight, for instance.
Exactly. Or like, welding arcs.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And it's all about minimizing those false alarms. Right. Because if the alarm's going off all the time,
nobody's going
to take it seriously.
Right. It's like the boy who cried wolf.
Exactly. So you need that accuracy, right?
Wow. So we've got these fixed detectors that are super smart.
Right.
What other kinds of things are out there?
So then you've got your manual pull stations,
okay.
The ones that we see,
everywhere
in office buildings and stuff.
Right.
And they still have their place. No. The document actually talks about how they're often used alongside other detectors, like heat detectors, smoke detectors, just to give you, a more comprehensive kind of coverage.
So it's like this multi-layered kind of approach.
Exactly. It's about making sure that no matter where the fire starts, no matter how fast it spreads,
there's something there to catch it.
Exactly. Precisely.
Wow. Okay. So are there certain environments where it's like particularly challenging to make this work?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, think about, those offshore drilling platforms or LNG facilities.
Yeah.
These are some of the most demanding environments you can imagine.
Right.
You're dealing with incredibly volatile substances, often in really harsh weather conditions.
Yeah.
And then you've got the potential exposure to all these corrosive materials.
Salt water, I imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need some really, really tough equipment.
Right.
And a multifaceted approach.
Okay.
So you need detectors that can handle extreme temperatures.
Right.
They've got to be resistant to corrosion and they've got to be able to withstand, the constant ocean spray.
Oh, wow. So it's really it's a whole other level.
It really is, yeah. And in these environments, you'll often see a combination of different detection technologies working together.
Okay, so like, what are we talking about here?
So you might have your optical flame detectors,
Okay.
which are, again, they're incredibly sensitive to the light from a flame.
Mm-hmm.
But you might also have gas detectors as well.
Oh, okay.
Which can actually sniff out the presence of flammable gases before a fire even starts.
So it's like having a backup plan on top of your backup plan.
Exactly. It's about creating a system that's as adaptable and resilient
as the environment itself.
Exactly, precisely. And that's what makes this whole field so fascinating.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What's so fascinating about it?
Well, it's this constant push for innovation, right? It's this race to stay one step ahead
of the game.
Exactly.
Wow, that's incredible. So we've talked about all these amazing technologies, but it makes you wonder, what's next? What does the future hold for flame detection?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, the technology is always evolving.
Right.
But one thing's for sure, innovation is key.
And I know that MSA, they talk about, connectivity being a big part of the future too,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. So what does that look like?
Well, imagine a world where, these intelligent systems, they're being monitored remotely. Right. So you have these specialists. Oh, yeah. They're keeping an eye on facilities all over the world.
Wow.
Providing real-time support and guidance if something happens.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's about using technology to create a world where, we don't just mitigate fire incidents, we actually prevent them altogether.
That's a powerful vision.
It really is.
Using technology to build a safer future for everyone.
Absolutely.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
We really have, yeah.
From talking about just how many things around us are actually flammable.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. To all these incredible technologies that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's an exciting field to be a part of, that's for sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on flame detection, just a final thought for you out there listening.
Yeah.
With all these advancements in technology, with sensors that can, see fire and systems that can learn and predict.
Right.
What innovations do you think are still out there? What do you think the future holds for flame detection? This is The Deep Dive, signing off.